Soon will be too. As we just discussed, we are told to expect Big Oil's Rex Tillerson as the president-elect's choice for the most important cabinet job still open, Secretary of State.
I believe we're in the process of putting together one of the great cabinets that has ever been assembled in our nation's history, and you're seeing that. And you'll be seeing some more names coming out next week.
Now, we won't know the true direction of this group until it gets to work next month, but there are a few things we do know. The president-elect likes generals and billionaires, and it seems he doesn't mind sending mixed signals, like taking time to meet with Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio, but then naming a climate change denier to lead the Environmental Protection Agency.
We're going to protect the family farm, and we are going to end the EPA intrusion into your lives.
Well, I want to talk about what we're learning about the president-elect's philosophy and how he's picking these people and who they are and the change, big change, I think they're likely to bring to Washington. But let's stay on the potential Tillerson appointment and the idea where it fits into this context of the skepticism in many parts about Donald Trump's, I'll call it coziness, or his affinity for Russia and Putin. You have some new information just out this morning.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, a joint statement, a very unusual joint statement by leading senators from Republicans and Democrats, John McCain, the Republican, Lindsey Graham, as well as the incoming Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and Jack Reed, who's a ranking member in the Armed Services Committee, coming out with a very strong statement on Russia, saying just now that our democratic institutions have been targeted, and recent reports of Russian interference in our elections should alarm every American. They go on to talk about the impact that this may have, and they said that we have an obligation to thoroughly examine these incidents and come up with comprehensive solutions to deter and defend against further cyber attacks. They say this is not a partisan issue. So it shows the pressure that is going to exist from some corners of the Republican Party and Democrats too to push for something, and very significant that they would actually put together a joint statement like this, particularly with the incoming Democratic leader and someone as prominent as John McCain.
And to put it out early on a Sunday morning when they know this is going to be a topic on the Sunday conversations, when they know that Donald Trump, this interview was taped with Fox News Sunday, is going to be asked about this, when they know the Tillerson news, potentially the Secretary of State is in the mix. So it brings up a point, a strongly worded statement where they say there's no doubt this happened, and they just want to find out the depth and the scope of it, when Donald Trump just told Time this past week, I don't believe they interfered. That became a laughing point, not a talking point, a laughing point. Anytime I do something, they say, oh, Russia interfered. Again, anyone who has seen the intelligence says it's beyond question that they interfered. They want to get into the hows and the whys and the how deep, but Donald Trump just won't believe it.
This is Congress, both sides, standing up to the president-elect.
What does that tell you?
It's going to be an interesting January and February. You know, I mean, I think that McCain, especially the 2008 Republican nominee, who has both of these guys, by the way, McCain and Graham have had those testy relationships with Donald Trump. Donald Trump revealing Lindsey Graham's cell phone number, a year ago. So the idea of those two guys like now flexing their muscle, and Trump he's not in a campaign dynamic anymore. This is a dynamic testing the powers of Washington.
And I also think this is going to be a pick your battles presidency. Like, you're going to have to be really careful about where you contest Trump, and there's going to be so many opportunities to get outraged. They're choosing a topic that they believe is very serious and could actually reach.
And I mentioned in the last segment that Republican leaders have been quiet on this, but having McCain and Graham bang the drums on this, it's going to make it very hard for them to continue to stay quiet. They're going to have to say something, particularly someone like Mitch McConnell, who's been a hawk and criticized Putin. So has Paul Ryan. And I think it also shows that this Russia issue is just going to loom over Donald Trump.
I think that the McConnells and the Ryans were hoping that Trump would change his tune on this during the transition, that this would be one of the things as he learned more information and he took the intelligence briefings, which we're told he's not taking as often as he could, that he would change his tune on this. And it's certainly McCain saying this. Let's go back in time. Philip Bump of the Washington Post, by the way, has a great infographic on the site if you want to look the last time Donald Trump had a press conference. He won the election, and we haven't had a chance to question him much. He is allegedly going to have a press conference. We'll see if he takes questions later this week to talk about his plans to how he handles the Trump organization, his business. But the last time Trump did have a press conference was when he essentially encouraged Russia to produce Hillary Clinton's emails. That's part of this little bit from the campaign.
I'm not a friend of Putin. I don't know Putin. I've never met Putin. I respect Putin. He's a strong leader, I can tell you that. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I don't think anybody knows it was Russia that broke into the DNC. She's saying Russia, 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 but maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay?
Right, but-
From everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of
No
the United
puppet,
States.
no puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
There's good theater there from the campaign, but it's about an incredibly important issue, the relationship with Russia. Donald Trump says we want to, well, where we can, we should get along with Russia, and nobody should disagree with that. There are strategic interests that have to be played out. But Russia has bullied its neighbors, including taking territory from its neighbors. Russia is involved with Assad, and they're killing children in Syria. And the questions relate. Now Rex Tillerson, potentially a friend of Putin as Secretary of State, could be a good thing. A guy who has a relationship with Putin might be able to deliver hard truths. But also General Michael Flynn, who will be the National Security Advisor, who attended a Kremlin dinner, was seated next to Vladimir Putin, who has said some nice things about Russia, also some hard things about Russia. But this is the big question that people are asking: is that, where's this mindset from Donald Trump coming from?
Well, and the other question is, does a letter from a bunch of senators make him more likely to go into the Russia column than not? I'm not sure with him. That's the weirdness of the Donald Trump presidency, is figuring out who influences him and how, because it is a mystery.
Yeah, and it's Jim Mattis, the likely defense secretary's nominee, who probably will get confirmed, I think, is actually more critical of Vladimir Putin, far more than, say, Flynn is, and apparently Rex Tillerson, who's an ally of Putin. So there will be different people who have different views of Putin within the cabinet. How that affects Donald Trump, though, is a different question.
There's been a signal that he wants to do a good cop, bad cop thing with China with his selection of Terry Branstad, the Iowa governor, for the ambassador to China. Obviously, Terry Branstad is a longtime friend of many Chinese leaders, and that was a signal that Trump is willing to have someone who's a little bit friendlier be his liaison. So we almost thought that there would be the opposite for Secretary of State, but he is choosing apparently someone who has a real bridge to Russia.
The good cop, bad cop thing can work. The question is, what does the boss say? He will be president. He will make these decisions in the end. We'll continue the conversation. Up next, he likes to work the phones and start Twitter wars. How much of what we saw from candidate Trump and are now seeing from President-elect Trump will carry over once it's all official in just 40 days? But first, take our Inside Politics quiz of the week. What do you make of the President-elect's tweets? Is it just Trump being Trump being presidential, or Trump going too far? You can vote now. Of course you want to at CNN.com/vote.
Choose to go. To indulge your curiosity. Explore a new road to see where it takes you. Meet the leaders who change the game. No matter where you are, no matter what the currency, when you run the numbers, they may surprise you. But stay your course. You're on the path to success. CNN Money.
What's it like to make a living off lust? Are you willing to fight against the odds? Can cops still fight crime while under the lens? This is Life.
This is Life with Lisa Lane. New episodes, Sundays at 10 on CNN.
Welcome back. We are getting some early lessons about how our president-elect plans to govern. If you're a company planning to move jobs overseas, well, expect a phone call.
I say, hi, how you doing? Oh, hello, Mr. President-elect. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. By the way, while we're on the phone, don't leave. Please don't leave. Please. And we've had great success. You'll be seeing a lot more success.
And if you're a critic who goes on television to suggest Trump is grossly exaggerating those successes, well, brace for a tweet storm. Just ask Chuck Jones, the Indiana Steelworkers Union leader, who says Trump is hyping how many jobs Carrier will now keep in Indiana as part of a deal brokered by the president-elect. Trump responds with tweets attacking Jones personally, you see those there, and attacking his union local.
He overreacted, President-elect Trump did, and I would expect if he was going to tweet something, he should have come out and try to justify his numbers.
What are we learning here? So, some of this is funny and some of it's entertaining, but some of it also is, I think, especially if you're a Trump critic out there, take a deep breath. He's going to be different. He was a different candidate. He's different in the transition. What are we learning about the governing thing, especially when it comes to calling a company or going after a critic on television? Do we expect Donald Trump, if somebody on this panel, somebody else says something harsh against him or raises questions about him, he's going to spend his days as president doing this?
I think he's learning it's effective. It's going to become more clear over time that people don't want to be, inciting the ire of the 45th president, and companies that don't want to be the wrong end of a tweet storm are going to, do what he requests.
It showcases a potential interventionist president, something that I think would give a lot of Republicans pause, who don't like to see a president and a White House picking winners and losers. And it also shows just the power of his social media. I don't think we can overstate, because anything that he says on Twitter, he's going to get command a national, international audience, and he can change the conversation with just 140 characters. Right. It's really, we saw it in the campaign. We're seeing this already when he tweeted about Boeing and essentially changed the focus away from the discussion that day, which was about Michael Flynn and his son pushing fake news stories about a very popular pizza place in Washington, D.C. that led to a gunman showing up there. So we're seeing a little bit of both, his intervention in the economy, and as well as the way he uses Twitter.
You mentioned how he uses it to distract us or to get us to follow the next bouncing ball or flashing red light. General Flynn was in the news that day, but the Boeing attack questioning the cost of the new Air Force One also came the very same day the CEO of Boeing was quoted in the Chicago Tribune questioning Trump's policies on trade. So is this, and again, I mean it the way I mean it, just like I'm going to say it. Is this a new version of the bully pulpit?
Yeah, I think there's some of that involved here, and you're right. You cannot freak out about every single Donald Trump tweet. Right. Many people have tried that. It's exhausting. But I think he's going to be different. This is going to be part of it. And there's a part of it that I think is genuinely dangerous. Like the flag tweet is actually chilling speech if you're saying that and you're the president-elect of the United States. But you can't tell Donald Trump that, because this is what got him here. And the overreaction to so much of it does, all this sound and fury gives Republicans, by the way, room to do all the things that they would like to do while everyone is focusing on something else. And I think that's what happened in some of these Senate races with Rob Portman and others who were just like, I'm just going to be the regular guy over here while all this noise is happening. And I think that's sort of the weird magic of Donald Trump for some of this.
There's a thing about scalability, I think, with Trump, and one is that he's had a big megaphone, but he's about to get a bigger one in the Oval Office as president. And the other thing is during the campaign, a lot of times he would punch down. He would make fun of Rand Paul at the end of the stage. When there's no need necessarily to. And he won. But you see that now with the union issue. A guy that is out there. That Trump just can't contain himself to not punch down at that guy and not focusing on some of the bigger, broader issues. So I think there's an ability to distract Trump, and have him go after sort of people who are smaller than him. And now he's president of the United States. That's going to be
that guy, the union man, did say in a Washington Post op-ed before he was on television that Trump was lying through his rhymes with grass about the numbers in the Carrier deal. And I think we'll have this debate. You mentioned A, the numbers, but B, Republicans saying, is this free market economics? The president United States, acting kind of like a governor, calling up CEOs, saying stay, don't go. We'll add up the numbers in 6 months or a year and see what the actual impact is. But if you're the blue-collar guy in a bar, in a union hall, you're thinking great. You're thinking great. The problem, one of the reasons I voted for Trump, and one of the reasons I'm so mad at Washington, is because none of those bastards do anything for me. And so I think politically for Trump, for the little guy out there, it shows that he cares.
Well, that's who he is. That's fundamentally who he is. He wants to be the guy on the phone making the deal. He wants to be in the room where it happens. That's him, right? And so I think you will see a lot of that, even when I think it has some chilling effects on the economy, or on how free market economy.
Because it's going to be really hard to get stuff done through Congress. If he can do things on his own like this, he can obviously say he's achieving the things that he campaigned on, even if he has a difficult time getting support for things on Capitol Hill.
You think Mike Pence would get it, but you think Donald Trump gets the Aaron Burr reference there? Okay. All right. Another point, though, is when it's it's all fine it's part of his strategy. The question is sometimes it's not exactly fact-based. First, I want you to listen to Kellyanne Conway, senior advisor to Trump now in the transition. She was the campaign manager here on CNN talking when the question was, is Donald Trump going to somehow, as president of the United States, stay involved, keep his executive producer title for the new Celebrity Apprentice, which of course involves Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Trump has a relationship with the founding of the business. He still has an executive producer title. Here's Kellyanne Conway.
He is conferring with all types of experts to tell him what he is allowed to do and not to do as the President of the United States. And if this is one of the approved activities, then perhaps he'll consider staying on. Were we so concerned about the hours and hours and hours spent on the golf course of the current president? I mean, presidents have a right to do things in their spare time or their leisure time. I mean, nobody objects to that.
Presidents do have a right to do what they want to do in their spare time, and then, of course, if they're willing to take the public scrutiny that comes with it. President Obama golfed, took a lot of grief for that. President Bush used to go to the ranch in Texas, took a lot of grief for that. We'll see what Donald Trump does. But you just heard Kellyanne Conway speaking calmly, saying, hey, we're going to look into this, we're going to talk to the lawyers, we're going to talk to the ethics guys, and if it's allowed, he'll probably do this to some degree. Well, here's Donald Trump. Reports by CNN that I will be working on The Apprentice during my presidency, even part-time, are ridiculous and untrue. Fake news. Mr. Trump, is Kellyanne Conway lying?
That's just, we're all speechless.
Yes, no, we elected a businessman, an outsider president, but he's also a reality TV star, and he is a master of creating a show. And we will see a show for the next 4 years.
I don't get the rationale necessarily for continuing. I mean, the credit is his. He did produce this show. You know, he deserves to have his name on the credits and maybe take money from it. But I don't get why he accepts that. I mean, it takes the scrutiny of it. He's now president of the United States, and Newt Gingrich had a comment the other day about how he doesn't need to be executive producer of the Celebrity Apprentice. He's the executive producer of the country now. You know, so he can afford to give that up. But you know, I think there's still something about the show for him.
He is different. He was different. He is different. He will be different, and we will keep watching. Up next, repealing Obamacare is the first agenda item for the new year. Republicans say it's keeping a long overdue promise. Some Democrats are betting it's the first step in their party's comeback.